Hey everybody, my name is Steven and welcome back to the Storytime channel. Without wasting any time, let's get into our stories of the day. My boss wanted me to train my replacement, but I didn't work there anymore. I used to work in a grocery store back in 2016. I was 16 or 17 at the time. I don't retail anymore, but I wanted to share the story I still remember to this day. It was a pretty normal night right before the end of my shift. I was one of the few closers at my store. So it was just me, my supervisor, and a cashier. I worked the self-checkout / customer service desk. My supervisor had just collected the tills and was in the back counting. And I was starting my rounds to take back the non-perishables that were left at the registers. I also might add that our store had terrible camera placement. Basically, it showed all the registers and the supervisor's office door, which is where the safe was. This is important later. After putting up all the items that were left at registers, I did my final checks of the store to make sure there were no misplaced or damaged items on the floor. I found a case of beer that was leaking in our beer / wine section, and since I wasn't sure how damaged the bottom of the cardboard case was, I had to drag it to the front so I could inform my supervisor about the damaged item before taking it to the back. We kept carts full of damaged items to be taken out by the morning crew. Since the supervisor's office is locked while they are counting the tills, I call over to her and let her know that there was a damaged case of beer and I was taking it to the back. She responds with an absent, "Okay, sounds good." So I take it to the back, place it with the rest of the damaged items, and go back to the front to see if there is anything else my supervisor needs me to do before I clock out. There isn't. Next couple days are fine as I finish up the week and wait for the next week's schedule to be posted. And I find out that I'm not scheduled for the next week. I figured there must have been a mistake as there was someone working at the same grocery store who shared my first name. I go upstairs to my manager's office and ask him about the schedule and why I wasn't scheduled. He responds with a, "Oh, my bad, I forgot to tell you that you are suspended until the investigation is over. By the way, can you train your replacement today on the self-checkout and customer service desk?" Me, confused and annoyed at the moment, don't really pay attention to the second part of his comment, ask him what he was talking about. "We caught you stealing that case of beer you took to the back, and until the police investigation is complete, you won't be working here anymore. Please turn in your uniform, name tag, and badge." I am furious, but I decide that I would just go with a bit of malicious compliance in this situation. "Well, boss man, I took the damaged case of beer to the back to be thrown out in the morning as per procedure. But since I won't be working here anymore, I guess you will just have to find someone else to train my replacement. Since I clearly can't be trusted. I was the only person who could train someone for the customer service desk other than him." His jaw dropped. The look on his face was priceless as I took off my uniform and handed him my name tag and override card. I then proceeded to walk out, get in my car, and drive home. About 2 years later, I joined the army, and I'm going for a job that required a security clearance. Guess what shows up? That suspension with an unfinished police report and tapes from the security camera. I sit there with my interviewer as we watch the tape together, clearly showing that I did not steal anything. Needless to say, I was approved for my clearance. I ask if I can get a copy of the tape, and my interviewer agrees. It took 2 years, but I finally had the evidence I needed to sue for wrongful termination. But as the time is well over the statute of limitation, I am unable to actually do anything about it. Either way, I decide to go pay my old workplace a visit over my Christmas block leave, and a couple people recognize me, including my old boss. He tells me that thieves like me aren't welcome in his store and that I need to leave or he will be calling the police. I told him to call them and that his claim would surely hold up when I showed him the copy of the video footage of me stealing. The store had one of my favorite muffins and honestly I really wanted one since they are only made there. The police got called and did nothing and I got 3 muffins free of charge thanks to my favorite supervisor. Worth it. If this was you, what would be your reaction to the boss telling you that you stole that case of beer? Let me know what you would do or say in the comments below. They fired me before I finished my day. I'm a nurse. I work in nursing homes, rehabs, old folks homes, etc., etc. I do the paperwork that is sent to Medicare. That paperwork has to be submitted in a timely manner or the facility goes from $700 a day to $200 a day. Just tossing numbers out, don't remember the exact amount. This is important in a second. I worked for a facility that I loved. The people were wonderful, it was like a huge family. The staff ate their meals with patience, the independent people visited often, and our bosses were easy to approach. Then the bosses retired. At the same time, our board then decided that maybe we would make more money if we hired a management company. All of these changes happened within weeks of each other. They hired a traveling nurse to head up the skilled nursing unit for a year. We didn't react well to her. She never smiled, she would just look at you if you asked a question. And she decided that new rules that didn't apply to her were needed. Shortly after her hiring, she began firing everybody. It was like a war zone had erupted on the floor. Nobody smiled, no laughter, no visitors, no family meals, and loads of stress. I was the last one fired. Oh, I had been written up. 0 write-ups when she walked in, for things like cell phone on the floor, my pocket, drink on my desk in my office, water, and filing a certification form late. Doctors signed it the day it was due, but they photocopied it before I had left for the doctor's office. So they had their 3 write-ups. At 1500 on Friday, the administrator calls me into his office. I'm informed that I've been terminated. I'm floored. I worked my butt off. I'm actually great at my job. I've been there 7 years. I'm escorted to my office to gather my stuff. They have turned off my computer, asked for my passwords, and escorted me from the building. Here's where the malicious compliance comes in. They called me in to fire me just as I was creating the packet to send to Medicare. I was never able to send it. They never asked if things were situated since it was Friday. I volunteered no information. Remember that timely manner? Well, that Friday was the very last day to submit about 30 different forms. Most were 14-day assessments that literally covered 14 days. Billing friend called and let me know that the default cost over $100,000 by the time they figured everything out. Edit. The passwords they needed were system admin. I ran 2 different systems for the campus. They couldn't access either without the password. As for my other passwords, heck no, which includes the filing one, which created a longer delay. To me, it sounds like they brought the person in to fire a bunch of staff for no reason at all other than to just try and cut costs down. Sounded like that kind of a tactic, but I'm glad that it cost them big for doing that. All consultant hours must be approved via our matrix management. I work as a consultant for safety stuff. The exact work isn't too important to the story, but what is important is that I'm not an employee of Big Corp. They hire me as a consultant to the yearly update of their safety system and emergency plans. Normally, someone hires a consultant, they do their thing and send the bill. That gets paid just like a bill for, say, delivering a stack of bricks. Big Corp, however, decided to implement some new business speak buzzwords, and any externals, read me, who get hired need to get their hours approved in their matrix management structure. Now, for the majority of you who haven't graduated in buzzwordology, matrix management means that each project has a manager, and each function has a manager. So if you spend an hour sweeping up in the park, your 2 bosses are the function manager of sweeping and the project manager of parks. Of course, not being an employee of Big Corp, nobody told me this. My bill got rejected, and that meant I had to angry call their administration and tried desperately to explain that I didn't do any project work, that this probably falls into whatever category they have for overhead. No deal. But they hopefully set me up with a consultant account, and I proceeded to jump through a few hoops to get it paid. Naturally, that annoyed me, severely, since all that time is pretty much money down the drain. So, like a mature and responsible adult, I decided that if I couldn't be happy, none of them could be happy either. After spending several hours getting things set up, it's time to see who needs to approve my hours. Compliance. Well, Technically, the safety plans apply to all projects, so I'd best select every single project manager. Oh, and I guess they also apply to all functions. But I should be fair, since I didn't spend equal time on every function. After all, the risks to someone working in the workshop are much higher than the admin staff, so I'd best split up my hours as fair as I can. Oh, it seems that by splitting my hours among functions, I now have to select every single project for every single function. I'd best email their admin again to confirm if I should really enter a bill that needs to be approved 108 separate times. I quickly received the reply. All billable hours must be approved by all relevant management pairs. So I submit 108 separate approvals for 2 hours of actual billable work, with the email quoted in the description of each request. Thankfully, I only had to autofill the form 9 times. Result: approximately 45 seconds after hitting submit, I get a call from Big Corp admin asking what the heck I'm doing. I reply that I simply did as they told me, and that I did select every relevant function and project. Was there a better method, and if so, why didn't they tell me when I asked for it? It's been 8 weeks now, and my approval is in the system showing 35 approvals, 57 pending, and 16 denied. I've just emailed my pay me now or there will be extra cost letter, and the auto reminder in their own system has just spammed 73 pairs of people again to approve my bill please, because they can't release payment without 108 sets of people ticking the accept box. I just think it's not practical to have an overly successful system with so many levels of approval. When you try to get something done and you have to go through multiple levels of approval, it's a nightmare usually. Want me to park in an actual spot? Sure, no problem. So I've gone back to delivering pizzas during this time of crisis. I actually do enjoy the job, tips are good, and most customers are friendly. However, from time to time, today I delivered to an apartment complex. The parking spaces were as you would typically expect in a suburban complex, 90 degrees to the direction of travel. I typically avoid parking in handicapped spaces for obvious reasons, so I usually park along the backside of the vehicles. Very rarely have I come back to someone waiting to leave. The main reason I do this is just because it's easier to take off. Plain and simple. Today, I got out of my car to find an individual who really wanted the spot I was blocking, despite 3 other spots very nearby. "You need to park in an actual parking spot," she barked. I apologized. "Sure thing, ma'am, I'm sorry." I pulled forward and then backed into the spot she was eyeing. "There you go, very sorry," I quipped as I jogged into the building. Petty and malicious, I like it. But with that said, that's all the stories we have for today. So what I want to know is which of these stories piqued your interest the most and why? Let me know which of these stories was the most interesting for you today in the comments below. And thank you all so much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. Thank you all so very much again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.